Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name's Austin Van Churn.
And my name's Patrick Ferret.
And as always, guys, welcome to our show. So guys, it's great to be back this week. Isn't that right, Pat?
That's right, Austin. Always a pleasure to be doing the show with you and also for our fans.
That's right. And, we got a big episode today. So we want to talk first about more minutes for a young striker in the Bundesliga.
We also have two Americans performing very well in the Eredivisie in the month of April, Austin.
And we also want to go in-depth on one dual net that could be playing for the U.S. men's national team very soon. All that and more in this episode. Well, guys, the first player we want to talk about today is Sebastian Soto. So Sebastian actually came on and made another appearance for Hanover this weekend, and he played the final 9 minutes of their unfortunate 3-1 loss to Gladbach. And, in this game, he kind of left off where he started last week. He looked very active in his minutes on the pitch, was pretty confident. He had a nice, I guess it was like a 1-2 situation. I think it was in the 88th minute or so, where he basically headed or took a ball down, then played a pass and made a nice run on the left. But unfortunately, the player he played the pass to wasn't looking for him, or else he might have been actually on the box by himself or in the box by himself. But, other than that, he had only a few more touches in this game than last game. And it was really hard to get a good assumption, Pat, of how good of a striker he's going to be in the Bundesliga, or at least in Germany if he's not in the Bundesliga next year.
The very few chances, right, Austin, with that team, Hanover could not get out of the back, right?
Yeah, that's honestly it. They cannot play the ball through the midfield. I was telling you, Pat, right before we started filming, they basically try to build out from the back, and then they lose the ball in midfield, and then the team they're playing, comes right down the field, counters, and gets a good chance, and then they start, all over again. And it's really tough if you're a striker to play in that situation, Pat. There's literally only a few balls coming to Sebastian in that 10-minute span. So
you could almost say literally there's nothing you can do as a striker. I mean, sometimes you drop back here and there, but you're a striker, so you're supposed to be higher up the pitch.
Right. And it really makes, kind of life tough for you because you're going to have to do a lot more running. And then you're also just going to have to be, very clinical when those chances come to you, if they ever do. But so far in any of these games, the two games that Sebastian's played in, no chances have really come to him to score. So, he's doing the best he can do at the moment. I think he's played well when he's been on the pitch. Like I keep saying, he's looked the part of playing in the Bundesliga. So, that's the most I can really say about him right now. I know, Pat, we're obviously very excited for him, and, we're hoping that maybe he gets a chance to start this year, start one of these games when Hanover actually does, get relegated, as that's pretty likely either in this next game or probably the game after that.
Yeah, this seems imminent.
Yeah, I mean, they're bottom of the Bundesliga right now, and they don't look like they're getting any better. So when that eventually does happen, maybe we'll see him get a start for Hanover just because, there's really nothing to play for at that point. But
that's a good point, Austin. And then also I know, again, like we mentioned, it's a tough scenario, but do you see, I know we were talking about this a little bit before too, but do you see this potential or most likely relegation part for Hanover being maybe a blessing in disguise for Soto as playing in the two Bundesliga and bringing in a new wave? And I know there's going to be a lot of turnover, I'm sure, within obviously the players and then management, things like that. Do you see that being a great opportunity for him to kind of shine with this new wave coming in, or could this also be a cause of concern just because there's limited opportunities and they need to get right back into the Bundesliga, without little mistakes? So just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, and it's a good point. I think it's kind of something we haven't really seen yet, at least not in Germany. We haven't really seen one of our younger players endure relegation and then also be tasked with, probably being maybe not a big part of their plans next year, but, definitely a part of Hanover's plans next year as they, like you said, Pat, look to come up, the season after and kind of bounce back. There's going to be pressure on them next year because they're a team that has, a pretty high wage bill. So they're probably going to offload a good amount of players this summer. But if they stay in the 2 Bundesliga for longer than a year or two, it's going to really take a toll on them financially. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to cause a lot more maybe stress or put some pressure on the back of Sebastian if he is getting consistent playing time next year. But, maybe that's a good thing, Pat. Maybe we'll see, him really shine for Hanover and, help them get back into the Bundesliga and then maybe play a big role for them when they actually, do get promoted. Like I said, it's something we haven't really seen. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, wave of uncertainty. And we've seen a few Americans do pretty well in the 2 Bundesliga.
Yeah, I mean, Julian Green's has had his ups and downs. Andrew Wooten this year is a striker that has kind of gone obviously very under the radar, has played pretty much his whole career in the 2 Bundesliga, I think, or at least, the last several many years. Did get a cap, I believe it was in like 2014, 2015, right after the World Cup. So he's a player that's had some good success in the 2 Bundesliga this year, but we haven't really seen any young Americans really get any opportunities. Mackenzie Gaines was one player who was at Darmstadt for a period of time and is now on loan to the 3 Liga. That's the only one that really comes to mind as being like a young player to kind of break out in the 2 Bundesliga, and he didn't really do that. So it'll be interesting. We do have Blaine Ferry at Greuther Fürth, who hopefully will make his debut for them next year, but we'll see. It's a little bit. There's a little bit of uncertainty into the situation surrounding Soto at Hanover, but in that crucible of tough moments for a club and a player, I guess it's not truly a tough moment for Sebastian, but Sebastian has that opportunity to make the tough moment for the club, that much, I guess, less of a tough moment, or
That's right.
Push them into bigger things. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore. But yeah.
No, I was gonna say too, Austin. Maybe not my best analogy here or comparison, but in the scenarios, Lyndon Gooch, I know, has dropped down a few leagues with Sunderland,
right.
But being that maybe player to help, inspire the fans and the club and bring some joy back to the team. Obviously, completely different scenario, but we'd love to see Soto kind of make an impact and a difference in that way, I guess.
Yeah, and that's definitely an opportunity that should be there for him next year. So, as always, guys, we'll monitor Sebastian over these next few games or last few games in the Bundesliga, and we hope to be talking about him more to finish the season. So, Pat, now I guess let's go over to Holland and talk about a player who had a really good performance this week.
That's right, Austin, and that is none other than Erik Palmer-Brown for NAC Breda. This past weekend, they were involved in a 1-1 draw against FCMN. Erik Palmer-Brown was actually the man of the match during that game, and also for the week, he was on the WhoScore Eredivisie Team of the Week. So good props to him, especially these last few months where he's been performing very, very well for a club that's struggling. And I believe is sitting, Austin, 4 points deep at the bottom in automatic relegation. So not looking good for the team, but again, EPB's individual performances have been looking up. And I also just want to quickly mention, during that game, he actually scored the equalizer in the 88th minute off of a pretty nice kind of volley there. It was a nice shot by the NAC Breda player. The goalie kind of parried away, and EPB was on the end of it and drilled it into the upper corner. So always good to see him get on the score sheet and using his foot. So again, just kind of also want to highlight he was very, very dominant in the air, won a lot of aerial duels, and the key stat, Austin, was his 4 successful dribbles. So he was playing it out of the back, dribbling through pressure, kind of taking it into the midfield, and then opening up, unlocking the MN defense that way. So always good to see.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. Yeah, that's something that we don't really have too much of is center backs are willing to take the ball upfield and kind of play with the ball at their feet. So if he's doing that, in the Eredivisie, that's exciting. That's promising.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, another kind of, I guess, scenario where a team, it seems like some of the Americans are playing with teams that are just kind of in that relegation zone. And you could kind of see, I guess, even throughout the whole year, the NAC Breda team has just looked poor in general, and you can't really fault entirely, rely on the two center backs for EPB to save all the problems there throughout the the entire 11. And he's done as much as he can. Like I mentioned, there's only so much you can do as an individual player, especially on loan in a scenario like this. So hopefully,
he's way back into the first team, so that's
exactly. Yeah, so that's some good, I guess like a silver lining or kind of light at the end of this tunnel. He is, not staying in the tunnel. He's unfortunately on loan and getting out of there. But it's good to kind of see him at the end of the season perform well, because it'll lead to another loan and hopefully a more positive loan and a team that's maybe at mid-table somewhere that isn't kind of threatened by relegation.
Yeah. Because I don't think Kortrijk was threatened by relegation last year. The team he was on loan to in the spring of last season. But yeah, this loan at NAC Breda has been definitely a tough learning situation for him. And he probably doesn't want to experience next year all over again.
And it's tough to compare. And it's funny they brought that up to Kortrijk. I remember they were actually on the verge of the Europa League spots. I remember,
so
that was exciting, but. I don't even, now thinking about it, Austin, would you say, I wouldn't say this is a step back for him, but would you kind of say from the past few loans, it seems like he's kind of maybe not even plateaued, but just kind of has had very tumultuous times where he gets on a loan, it's an injury, or kind of like gets out of the starting 11, and then he kind of picks up form at the end of the season, then it cycles back and he has a rough time. It just doesn't seem like he can put the full year of consistency together, which we really want to see.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, whether it's to injury or just poor form, he seems to play well at times and then also just play really bad. So, let's hope we can see him gain that consistency hopefully next year. I think, like you said, Pat, the season's coming to an end here and he's playing well, but, another month of the season is not going to make me firmly believe that he can keep it up for a whole year until next year he gets that opportunity again, and that's what we really need to see from him.
Absolutely, Austin, and like you said, perfect. This next year, I think, for EPB and his career is so crucial. He's still a young player, but I think this next year is really going to be almost, I don't want to go as far to say as a do or die year, but if he can really perform consistently like he's doing these last 3 months for a whole year next year on a good loan situation, I think that would do wonders for his career and U.S. chances moving forward.
What about a loan move that just popped in my mind? Because I know we've talked about this in past episodes, and we're also talking about it before the show started. But what about a move to like Rangers or something? Like,
it's funny, Austin, you say that. I'm actually a fan of the SPL. I like a few of the teams, and I would like that actually because I think
step up. Girona was the other team that we've talked about in the past because that's another Man City like feeder club, I guess they'd call it. But we're just not sure if he's really going to play in La Liga, and also Girona might get relegated this year too. So
that's right. We don't want a Shaq Moore situation. So
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's actually a very good take that I didn't actually even think about going to the Scottish League, because it is physical and it's still, Rangers is a top club, and with Stevie G there at the helm, and the Rangers going fairly well in the Europa League. They made a little push, and they'll probably be back there again. So I think that'd be a great opportunity to get more exposure, to see him on a team that could just get some more exposure in general, as opposed to some of these other loan moves. I know we were also mentioning that off camera. We haven't really seen that much of him just because of the teams that he's been on. Right.
Yeah, that was something else we were talking about. Like, the only time we really got to see him for an extended period of time was the U20 World Cup. And that was, what was it, like 6 games? So I think it was 5 games. So, I mean, some of the games he played at Sporting Kansas City I remember watching, but he was so in and out of that team that
yeah, that's right.
There was just no continuity. Kortrijk, we couldn't watch him. Porto B, we couldn't really watch him. This year we've seen bits and pieces of him, but we haven't really been able to watch a full game. So we just hope, I guess, that situation can change, and then also just him find some continuity somewhere for a full season and
That's not be
Austin. In and out of the team for whatever reason. So
We'd love to add EPB to our Scottish Yankees slide there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so again, we'll keep you guys updated on Erik Palmer-Brown, and all the best to finishing the season strong, even in a time of darkness for NAC Breda. But let's keep on going, Erik. But
that's right. Yeah.
Switching gears though, Austin, to a dual Nat that I know has really popped up on the radar just recently.
That's right, and that would be Tyler Boyd, who is, I guess you could say, like a winger and also maybe a striker, Pat. I mean, he kind of can do it all up front. He's been played as a striker. He's also been played as a winger. But, you know, he plays right now in the Turkish First Division, and he's on loan from Portugal. And, you know, the team he plays for right now is called Ankaragucu. I don't know, Pat. Am I saying that right?
You know, I don't even want to try. It's difficult. It looks difficult.
Ankaragucu. But we tried it before the filming started. We couldn't even get it. So I'm just going to move on and say, you know, he's a player that's New Zealand, or has New Zealand heritage, and is also has, I believe, an American mother, if I'm not mistaken, Pat.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I know there's such a situation. He lived some of his life in California. Is that correct? I think.
Yeah. So I think he was born in New Zealand, or his parents were in America when he was conceived, and then they moved back to New Zealand where he was born. And then at some age in between then and 10, he moved back to America up until he was 10, and then moved back to New Zealand. So you know, he's been to both places for a little bit of, you know, time in both places. But he made his debut actually in Australia, or I guess you could say his first team debut for the Wellington Phoenix.
Nice. Is that the A-League? Is that?
Yeah, that's the A-League.
Okay.
So, you know, that's exciting. At 17, he made his debut. Played there for, I believe, 2 or 3 years, and then made the move over to Portugal for Vitória Guimarães. I guess we'll pronounce it that way.
Yeah, I think you get it.
And that was in 2015. Then he went on loan to a team called Tondela, which is also in the Portuguese First Division, but I think at that time they might have been in the Second Division. I may be wrong. And also played for Vitoria's academy before he made that loan move. And then after that loan move, he got some playing time for Vitória this year before going on loan to Turkey. But he looked good on his loan at Tondela. And also, you know, he had some bright moments at times when he played for Vitória earlier this year, but he's recently been really coming into form, Pat, over in Turkey. Do you want to, I guess, take it over from there?
Yeah, that's right. Some of the key stats that Tyler's been performing, most recently, I think he scored, but in general, he's had 4 goals and 4 assists, I believe, in 9 appearances for his Turkish side. I'm not going to say the full name, Austin, you know, for the sake of not embarrassing myself.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, but yeah, I mean, again, it seems like he's really, you know, performing. Looks pretty lethal on the wing there. Yeah, I mean, again, it's tough to say just in general because there's a few top Turkish you know, sides that he's gone against, and there's also some not so good Turkish sides throughout the league. So it's very I guess you could say top heavy, where.
Well, it's tough because we were talking as well. Like the teams that are usually good in Turkey they don't really have that many good players at the moment, and they're not playing particularly well. I believe you said Fenerbahçe's in 14th.
Yeah,
that's one of the best teams in Turkey.
Struggling at the bottom. Yeah, I know Fenerbahçe and a lot of those other clubs, Austin,
like Galatasaray, Beşiktaş.
They were much better like 5-6 years ago. I feel like, and it's definitely kind of declined. Yeah.
So we're not really sure, I guess, how good of a league Turkey is at the moment. But, you know, Tyler's been playing well. You know, he's a very pacey player, Pat. He likes to, you know, he's a very aggressive player. I guess that's the best way to say it.
I know you were saying Paul Arriola comparisons, possibly.
That's exactly where I was going. When I was watching him, that was the first player that came to my mind. Just because Paul Arriola he plays very aggressive as well. He's always someone who's working hard defensively and is not afraid to kind of, you know, go at players physically. And when I was watching, you know, some of the Tyler highlights I saw of his time in Portugal, that's what I saw on the footage, or, you know, in the highlight reel. And Yeah, that's the player I thought he reminded me of. Now, is that to say that he's better than Paul Arriola? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's tough, Austin. What do you say to just? I mean, what do you think? I guess in general about people are like, oh, call him up. He's kind of been under the radar, but he's performing really well. Is there I guess a point to calling him up, or just is that justified, or is it just too early, or do we already kind of have players like him?
Well, yeah, that's a good question worth exploring. I guess I'll start with saying that he's played 6 times for New Zealand, but hasn't been cap-tied. I believe that's right, Pat.
Yeah, you're right.
So, he's definitely kind of waiting for that call-up, I would say, from America. Will it happen? I don't foresee it happening at the moment. Do I think it should happen? I'm kind of all for calling up, several players who have dual nationality just to get them a look in camp. It doesn't have to be a game where we're actually cap tying him. I know the next camp would be a game where a camp and competition where he would be cap tied for America. But yeah, I think in that highlight video there was some bright moments from him where I thought he could definitely help us out with that tenacity and aggressiveness and pace and just it looks like he's a very eager player, and I'm all for calling up players like that, players who actually want to be on the field and try to make the most of their time on the field. But at the same time, I wasn't 100% sold, or I can't say I was 100% sold, but I feel like everyone on Twitter think that he's better than all the other options we have at the wing, besides maybe like Christian Pulisic. But I got a very MLS vibe from Tyler. I hate to say that. And that's not a bad thing, but it's just like I'm not sure if he's so better than all the other players that he's, getting charted ahead of on Twitter. Like I said, Paul Arriola was the player that came to mind when I first watched him. And Paul Arriola plays in the MLS, and I think he's a pretty talented player. So that's my 2 cents. I wouldn't mind seeing him get called up, but Pat, what is your take, I guess, on Tyler? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, again, pretty similar take. I just, if you are comparing it to Paul Arriola, you could maybe make a case that I think DC is doing pretty well this season to start off, but DC compared to his club in Turkey now,
they're doing very well.
They might. I mean, it's so hard to compare, but DC could be better. I don't know.
It could be true, yeah.
But I don't know. Again, it's tough just because you know what, Greg Berhalter, we're kind of now getting into his system and his rhythm and rhyme and reason for calling up players. And realistically, again, I don't think it's going to happen at this moment. But maybe someone to just kind of keep in mind for the future. I know obviously he's between these two countries right now, but for the Gold Cup, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that. I don't see him getting called up for the Gold Cup. And then don't we have like the League of Nations coming up too, or the CONCACAF League of Nations, whatever it's called?
Yeah, whatever these extra tournaments now that they're adding.
Yeah, so those I believe would cap tie him as well. So I don't see him getting a call up in a cap tied situation. That's the best word I can think of at the moment. I think it would have to be a situation where it's a friendly and he'd get called up just to see, if he is worth really, having him force that one-time switch. Now, maybe that's a little bit of a conservative viewpoint and a conservative way to approach him. I know a lot of people would probably just want to cap tie him no matter what. And then if we don't use them, we don't use them. But I feel like you said, with Greg Berhalter, I don't foresee him just calling up a player just because people on Twitter want it, or it looks like he may be better than some of the wingers we have. I think it's got to be a player that maybe not Greg's super familiar with, but it's got to be a player that Greg understands who the player is, and then also has faith in giving him that call up and giving him minutes on the field. Which is something that's, unless Tyler makes a move to MLS or something, maybe that would make him, put him in the eyes more of Greg Berhalter. Greg's got that MLS pedigree. So
that's right. That's a good point. You brought up something interesting there. I just want to quickly touch on too. Is like I think Berhalter has mentioned he wants his players to all understand the culture and things like that, and just kind of really just understand what it is to wear the crest and things like that, and the whole philosophy that he's coming. And it does go back to the points where he's not going to just pull people from just kind of coming up for the next few weeks from leagues wherever, and just kind of I think he just wants players that he really, really trusts at this time, especially with his first, I guess you could say, major tournament coming up. And not to say it, maybe Tyler will turn out fantastic, and he's kind of like a diamond in the rough, I guess, or a hidden gem. But I just see Berhalter kind of painting this picture to his players right now. He's gotten a good base, or I guess foundation, of who he wants to bring in and things like that. Like you mentioned, some MLS players, Austin. But yeah, again, I don't see it happening right now for him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So, we'll keep monitoring him. Let us know in the comments or on social media if you want us to actually follow him and report on him each week. Because like we've talked about, he is getting playing time at the moment and scoring goals and providing assists. So, if you do want us to cover him, it's up to you guys. Yeah, we'll leave that to you guys. So now let's move on to one final player in this segment. And Pat, who would that be?
And that is our boy, Andrija Novakovich, who is actually playing very, very well in the Eredivisie. Just want to highlight his most recent performance. It was a 1-1 draw against VVV Venlo, who we unfortunately know with the Zelalem unfortunate situation there.
That's right, yeah.
But not to mention that, Andrija actually scored in the 11th minute. It was actually Andrija Balic, if I'm pronouncing that right. He had a nice kind of ball played into him, a beautiful turn, nice little snapshot, right? The goalie that forced him to save it, and Andrija just kind of had a typical striker's goal, just followed it up, and was kind of right there and put it in the back of the net. So always good to see him get his 11th goal in all competitions now, along with 2 assists. So we've seen him really perform well, even throughout injuries and things like that, which I've mentioned in the past about talking about Andrija, Austin. But for this whole year, 11 goals and 2 assists isn't too bad for a player kind of, slowly moving up different, league levels on loan here.
Now, I have one pressing question that we brought up in our show last week. Was there a red card this week for Sittard?
Ooh, you know what, Austin? I don't think there was. I think they might have broken their curse. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe that's why he was able to get a goal and be a little more active.
Jeez, yeah, that's good to hear. At least that was pretty brutal. Like 4 games in a row with a red card.
Yeah, something. I think it was like 4 games, I believe, something like that, and maybe even like 7 in the last 9 or something weird. I've never heard of a team doing that before, but nonetheless, it seems like Sittard obviously drew the game, but is safe from relegation for now. And it'll be interesting, Austin. I know we were talking about this too off camera, but Andrija, his loan moves, obviously up at the end of the year. We don't know where he's going to go, and his Reading contract, I guess, isn't expiring until 2020, I believe.
Right.
So it'll be kind of interesting to see what transpires, over the summer where Andrija goes, and if Reading is really kind of looking, I know elsewhere, maybe you can touch on it. They have some other strikers that they're focusing on, and they might try to make a profit off of Andrija. Yeah,
because this summer transfer window would be the ideal time to really sell him if you're looking to make money on him. Maybe you would wait till the winter, but if he's on loan for a full season with Reading, you're not going to be able to sell him mid-loan. So, yeah, I think this summer I have a good feeling we're going to see Andrija get sold. I really don't see his future at Reading. The striker you brought up was actually a player called, I believe, Danny Loader, who's an 18-year-old who's, I believe, has been with several of the English national teams or the youth national teams, and has played really well with them, and is a player that they're really excited about. So I can't see them sacrificing time from him for what is it now, a 22-year-old Andrija, 23-year-old Andrija. Unfortunately, it'd be nice to have an 18-year-old. Well, we do have 2 18-year-old good strikers coming up. So
that's
I guess
right.
we can't.
That's right.
But yeah, just I feel like it might be Andrea's time to move this summer, and we'll keep our eyes out. We've talked about several moves from the past few episodes, so I think we'll save that for today. But
that's right. That's right. Yeah, Austin, we have talked about a few moves, and again, don't want to harp on the same opinion, but kind of EPB situation. This is going to be a very crucial kind of summer and year for him coming up, just because we've seen him a little bit in camp and stuff, and some of the games for the U.S. Very brief stints. I think we saw him in Philly against Bolivia.
That's right.
So again, one of those players who I don't think is immediately on the in Berhalter's plans right now, but still a really promising striker that has great ability in the air and very technical, and it could do wonders for, even if he would have come in the last 15-20 minutes of the game and make an impact. I think that's a player that could really perform at a high level for the national team.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eyes on Andrija, and hopefully we get to see him continue his goal scoring streak. And so that's all for this part of the episode. And now let's go over to Quick Kicks.
All right, all you viewers, it's our favorite time of the show, and I'm not talking happy hour, am I, Austin? What time is it?
That's right. It's time for Quick Kicks.
So you could test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
So to start off Quick Kicks today, we'll start with Haji Wright, who started and actually scored a hat trick for Schalke's U23s in their 7-0 win over the weekend.
That's awesome, Austin. And heading over to Scotland for Celtic, where Timo Weah subbed on in the 75th minute in a 3-0 win against Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup semi-final.
And going back to Germany, Alex Mendez started and played 66 minutes in Freiburg's U19s 2-2 draw with Nuremberg's U19s.
And now heading over to the English Championship with Reading, where Matt Miazga put in a strong shift and got the full 90 minutes in a 2-1 win against Brentford.
And going back over to Holland, Richie Ledezma played 30 minutes for PSV's U19s in their 1-0 win over Ajax's U19s.
And great to see Antonee Robinson back from the road to recovery, putting in a full 90 for Wigan in a 1-1 draw against Norwich.
And going over to Spain with one of our young Yas, Cade Hagan scored an impressive 4 goals and also provided 1 assist in Sporting Gijón's 5-0 win over the weekend. So congrats to Cade.
That's awesome, Austin. And some unfortunate news for Cameron Carter-Vickers in Swansea. He was involved and played the full 90 in a 4-0 beatdown from Queen's Park Rangers.
Oof, that's brutal. And going over to Germany, Taylor Booth started, played 82 minutes, and also scored his very first goal in Germany for Bayern's U19s in their 5-1 win over the weekend.
And heading over to Belgium, Brendan Hines-Ike played the first 45 minutes in a 1-0 loss for KV Kortrijk there.
And Chris Gloster started and played 90 minutes in Hannover 2's 4-1 win over the weekend. So congrats to Chris.
Awesome. And Indiana Vassilev started and played 63 minutes in a 3-2 loss for West Ham's U23s against Reading's U23s.
And heading back to Germany, Mason Judge started and played 90 minutes in Eintracht Frankfurt's U19's 2-1 win over the weekend.
And exciting news for Kane there, where Niko Gioacchini got bumped up to the reserve sides there and scored a penalty kick in a 3-1 win against Gonfreville.
And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe below.
And also, again, make sure to check out our Instagram or Twitter, our fantastic social media accounts, and we're always putting out great content for you guys.
That's right. And make sure you leave a comment on this video and reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram. Let us know what you guys want to see. As the summer comes up, some of these weekly performances will be coming to a close for the season. So we want to continue filming videos every week, Pat, and we need some ideas that you guys want to hear about. So let us know, and we love to interact with you guys as always.
Absolutely, Austin. I know there's like you mentioned, there's some exciting summer tournaments, maybe some new loan moves for different players abroad, and it's been a trying time for some of our players, but in trying times is when maybe the stars shine brightest. So Austin, hopefully this is all culminating to one thing in the future.
That's right. That's what it's all leading to. That's what we're all building towards. And that would be one day the U.S. will win a World Cup.